It's time, let's begin at the very basic. What is yoga? Answer. Let's go to the dictionary and let's see what the dictionary itself has to say about this. These are the words that read: a Hindu spiritual and ascetic discipline, a part of which, including breath control, simple meditation, and the adoption of specific bodily postures, is widely practiced for health and relaxation. Of this which I've just read to you, I want you to mount these words in your minds. These are the words I want you to remember. A Hindu spiritual and ascetic discipline. For the sake of those who do not understand it, well, let's go to Wikipedia. It actually gives an accurate, simplified definition of what we just read. These are the words that read, and I quote, "Yoga is the physical, mental, and spiritual practices or disciplines which originated in ancient India with a view to attain a state of permanent peace." The term yoga can be derived from either of two roots. They are the following. Yes, these words are hardcore for me to pronounce. In fact, they are too hardcore to the point where if I was to try and pronounce them, I probably would make a fool of myself. So, this is what I want you to understand from that which I have just read to you. Yoga simply originated in ancient India. And here's another accurate point. Listen to these words. Various traditions of yoga are found in Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism. Take these three isms, combine them together, and you get one big fat ism called paganism or heathenism. That's right, these three religious bodies are all under a big wing of paganism. And paganism simply describes the practice of worshipping something other than the God of the universe. And the placement of anything before God is idolatry. The second commandment of God, which was written in stone by God's very own fingers, stands in opposition of any pagan traditions. Listen to these words. "Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them." I think it is obvious that we all know that Eastern mysticism is strictly paganism. And anyone who knows the history of paganism will be quick to note that paganism has been around for thousands of years. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen, the interesting thing is this: the positions or postures of yoga, these have been found in artifacts dating to over 3,000 years BC. So what exactly am I trying to get across? It's simple. What you are getting yourself involved in is in fact a practice that has been taking place for thousands of years, and this is not something new. In fact, not just in Hinduism or Buddhism, but yoga was also found in shamanism. And that is another ism added to the equation. Altogether now we got 4 isms added together, bringing one big fat ism called paganism. Why the big heavy emphasis, you may ask? Well, paganism is something that no one should even dare to go near. What is wrong with paganism, you may ask? Well, the answer is quite simple. Paganism is simply another way of describing the occult. And paganism is not just divided into a few groups here and there. You see, there are many ways whereby an individual can enter into the world of the occult. And let me put heavy emphasis on this so you understand for yourselves. While there are many paths which lead to destruction, there is only one path which leads to salvation. There are many paths which will lead you into paganism and into idol worship and even bowing down to and worshipping spirits of devils. However, there is only one way which leads to salvation, and this is the pride of the Christian. This is the Christian hope. There is only one way, and that way is through Jesus Christ. The Bible says the following. Jesus said unto him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. nor is there salvation in any other, for there is no other name under heaven given among men by which we must be saved. Okay, so what exactly does this have to do with yoga, you may ask? Well, it's going to be like this. Yoga is simply one of many routes whereby you are being initiated into occult society. To make this easier for you to understand, here is the main key I'm going to tell you right now. You see, when yoga first originally came out, yoga was not done for physical purposes. It was strictly done for spiritual purposes. Explain this, you may ask. Well, I'm going to make this very easy for all of you. Simply, yoga is a Hindu word that means yoke. To yoke means to bind or to unite, to join together. A good example of yoke is marriage. Marriage is a type of yoke that involves two individuals, a man and a woman, which come together and they are joined and they become as one. But don't get me wrong in misunderstanding what I am implying here. In the physical sense, a yoke is something that was made of wood, which connects two animals together so that they can work together as one, as a team. And before I get too carried away, understand this before we go further. Yoke simply means to unite or to bind. So, what does this have to do with yoga? So, what does this have to do with yoga? Well, if you look at yoga, the whole concept of yoga, it strictly deals with meditating upon something much bigger than you. Let me break it down and make it more simple. You see, the act of meditation is simply the act of binding one's consciousness with this so-called God consciousness. More commonly, they will refer to this as the binding of one's consciousness with the divine conscience of the universe. This is Kundalini Yoga. Other foolish people on the media such as Oprah Winfrey and others who are promoting New Age teachings, they use the words Christ consciousness. And you know what? Because they use that word Christ and then they put consciousness, it catches the attention of the Christians. And that's why today we have Christian yoga. All of this is foolishness, 100% foolishness. But here is the interesting thing. Yoga is divided into many different segments. There are different types of yoga. However, I'm not going to go through each of them. I'm just going to list them here. You can go and freely do your own research on this. Here is something that not a lot of people pick up in yoga. The act of meditation is an act of submission. Let me repeat that again. The act of meditation is an act of submission. Being in a state of meditation goes like this. You go to the point where you relax yourself, where you are in a sleep state while you're still maintaining your consciousness. So in a way, it's you going to sleep, but you're not fully asleep. Your conscience is fully aware of what is going on. However, you are to let go of your body. You are to not think of controlling your body. You are simply to be away. What you are simply doing is clearing your mind. You are emptying your mind. When you clear your mind, you are also to let go of your body. Let go of your body. Let go of your temple. Then people begin to experience astral body projections and lucid dreaming. One thing I should point out to all of you is this. You all need to be aware that just as other religions, yoga itself has its own master. And here in Eastern mysticism, Hinduism itself tells us who is the Lord of yoga. The Hindu god Shiva is known as Yogeshwara or Yogi Shwara. Anyways, I'm not about the pronunciation, but it means Lord of Yoga. So, a Hindu god known as Shiva is referred to as Lord of Yoga. So in the end, you think that when you are meditating, you are just meditating upon nature and upon good things and all these things when you're practicing yoga, when in actuality, you are in fact paying homage to the Lord of Yoga himself. Welcome to the occult society. And for those of you who do not know who Shiva really is, Shiva is a demon. Shiva is a very dangerous god of Eastern mysticism. Shiva is also known as the destroyer. So here is what I want you to rivet in your mind. Shiva is not only the lord of yoga, but Shiva is also known in Hinduism as the god of the destruction of this world. He is the destroyer. Why am I putting heavy emphasis on this, you may ask? Well, all I am doing is putting heavy emphasis on these things and pointing them out to you so that you will know exactly what it is that you are getting yourself into. Do not just blindly follow and jump into something without examining the roots of it. And you see, ladies and gentlemen, I want all of you to observe this clever tactic of the devil. You see, he uses women to promote yoga and to bring it into Western civilization. Women make everything look attractive. Yoga looks attractive. And when you see women doing yoga, you're going to start rolling your eyes and you're going to be like, damn, I'ma join this sport. And that's exactly how it works. Truth be told, 100%, most people initially join yoga of good intentions. They join yoga to improve their well-being and health and flexibility. However, when one goes deep into yoga, what they then begin to experience is that it is more of a spirituality than it is a physical exercise. In the real sense, what ends up happening is you end up being in yoke. You end up binding your mind with that of a demonic spirit. Another thing I want to point out to you, ladies and gentlemen, is this. If you look at the majority of these Hindu gods, you will find that they, for the most part, are associated with snakes. And speaking of snakes, in India, snake festivals are held every year, and these annual festivals are considered very sacred. These pagan festivals are considered very holy. In simplicity, all you must understand from this phrase is that snakes are worshipped in India. What does this have to do with yoga, you may ask? Well, take a look at these gods of Hinduism. They have snakes that are affiliated with them. And when people worship snakes, do you know who they are worshiping? They are worshiping that serpent of old. And in fact, it's not just in India alone. All throughout history, from ancient civilizations even until modern day times, people are still worshipping snakes. Stay with me. I don't want you to miss this point. Thus far, we know that people worship snakes in India. Where else can we find in history and in modern civilization? Now, what I'm going to list for you, all of you know this. Well, all of you should know this, but if you don't, you can go and always do your own research on it. Anyways, I'm going to briefly just paraphrase all of these things. In ancient Egypt, they worshipped snakes. In ancient Babylon, they worshipped snakes. The Aztecs worship snakes. The Mayans, they too also worship snakes. The list goes on. Anyways, the bottom line is this. All throughout history, there have been nations of different civilizations that all worship one thing in common: snake worship, sun worship, idol worship. These things are predominant in the occult society. So what does this have to do with yoga, you may ask? The answer is simple and plain. This has everything to do with yoga. More specifically, let's take a look at Kundalini yoga, which they mostly call Kundalini awakening. Now, anyone who knows about Kundalini yoga will be quick to note that in Kundalini, you are strictly dealing with awakening that spirit of a serpent. Now, if you practice yoga and you did not know that it deals with awakening the spirit of a serpent, you had better go and reconsider what you got yourself into. In Kundalini, you have that which is called the 7 chakras. These chakras are found along the human spine. From the spine, then they make their way to the neck, and from the neck to in between your eyes, which they refer to as the third eye. And then after that, you go to the crown of your head, and that is when you are awakened. Now let me inform all of you this. God has placed a boundary between us and the spirit world, and God placed this boundary for a reason. It's to protect us. It is for our own protection that God placed a veil between us and the spirit world, or the supernatural. And here's the thing, when one decides to break that boundary and make a crossover between the physical and the supernatural, the results thereof are very catastrophic. Why am I saying this? And what could be so catastrophic by simply attempting to contact with the invisible realm? Here is the problem, my friend. When one contacts the spirit world, it not only results in spiritual possession, but it also results in spiritual attacks. When one joins yoga, they are simply going to train themselves to open that sense of theirs and being able to communicate with the spirit world. Opening the third eye, seeing through the third eye, simply means that you have opened the doorway of the spirit world, and you have broken that boundary which God had placed there for you, for your own protection. And this is the very reason why when we see people who have awakened that serpent, the spirit of Kundalini, when people go and tamper with that unclean spirit of a serpent, they begin to act animalistic, and they do not have control of their own temples. And by temples, I mean their bodies. And those who awaken the spirit of Kundalini, that demonic spirit of a serpent, this is what happens to them.
There are horrible dangers, but the worst danger is spirit contact. And that's what this whole thing is designed for, to make contact with the spirit world, to pick up spirit guides. And I have talked with many people in yoga, have made contact with spirit entities that have led them down a horrendous path of evil and destruction. I remember a friend of mine who was one of the leading rebirthers. It's another way it comes in. They regress you back. It's in psychology and psychotherapy. And they regress you back, and you relive this birthing process. And he became a Christian, and he said that after his observation of this whole New Age scene out there, he became convinced that these techniques were specifically designed to break open doors and knock down barriers that God has placed within us to prevent a demonic invasion.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, do you see the jerking motion? Do you see these kriyas, these jerking motions? You see, ladies and gentlemen, understand this clearly and don't confuse yourself. Many people think that just when they go to meditate, that is the only time that they will feel these jerking motions. But I want you to keep note of this, that when you awaken the spirit of Kundalini, that spirit of a snake, it does not need your permission the second time. You do not necessarily have to go in a state of deep meditation. It can come and act through you whenever it wants. Take a look at this.
Now, one of the very clearest signs of a Kundalini awakening has always been these kriyas. You see this woman involved in the New Age movement. She's walking along exhibiting these kriyas happening, involuntary jerking motions. And the staggering thing about it is that we are seeing again and again and again these exact same type of kriyas right through the Toronto movement. This has always been one of the clearest signs of Kundalini that we know of.
And I got that vibrating again. Lord, let everybody vibrate.
Aches and he grieves for your spirit. He grieves for you.
Times and season by getting a hope from God, getting a hope from God. to be able to see, to discern the times and the seasons that's ahead of you. And the thing about the elephant, it wasn't just an ordinary elephant, it was a wild elephant, a wild elephant. It was radical, 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 radical.
Now, if you think this is something, think again. Because there are people, many people, who could be in their homes watching television, or they could even be just doing something normal like normal people are doing, and all of a sudden they begin to jerk. The same jerking motions will start coming upon them, and then they begin to act animalistic. Now, I want you to take a look at this carefully. I want you to think to yourselves, do you really want to get yourself involved with something like this? Now, I want you to pay close attention. Before it gets to that point where you begin to get those extreme jerking motions, what happens is you go through a stage. You go through a stage of having unusual dreams. You experience more and more lucid dreaming, and you also experience more astral body projections. And those things, as I mentioned in my other video, they are all linked with paralysis. This is all a result of what happens when you go beyond your boundaries. These boundaries were put there to protect us from being spiritually attacked. Some people who have awakened that spirit of a serpent, what happens is that when they are sleeping at night, that serpent will awaken them. That's right, the same jerking motions will kick in. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please ask yourselves this question carefully. Do you really want to go to that point of awakening the Kundalini spirit? If you do, it's entirely in your hands. But when you get spiritually attacked, do not blame anyone but yourself. Here is the deception. I want all of you to make note of this deception very well. And this goes for a lot of you Christians out there. You see, the Bible tells us if we want peace or if we want any comfort in this life, we must have Jesus Christ. We need to look to Jesus Christ. Turn to Him. But yoga tells us to turn to ourselves, and we have to connect ourselves with the divine conscience of nature. In other words, don't go externally to Jesus Christ, but look internally to yourself. And when you turn internally to yourself and you ignore Jesus Christ and you unlock the boundaries which God has set there to protect you, what happens is you automatically align yourself with something much more sinister, because now visits from the supernatural world can be more frequent, and demonic attacks, demonic possession, and spiritual manifestations can be much more readily than ever before. And unless you close that door, you are in deep trouble. And the only way to close that door is to call upon the name of Jesus. Only He can close the door. You can open it, but you cannot close it. Only He can close it. Question: is meditation wrong? Answer: depends on what you are meditating upon. If you are meditating upon the Word of God, you are reading the Bible and you are meditating and you are reflecting upon God, His wonderful works, and you are singing praises to Him, there is nothing wrong with that. But there's a big difference as to how you fellowship and you give praise to God, how you meditate upon His Word, than when you are meditating upon something else, because yoga takes you into a whole different concept of meditation. Yoga gets you to meditate internally. Focus on yourself and focus on the divine power of nature. Meditate upon yourself. You have a potential. There is an inner being. There is an inner God that is trapped within you. Release that energy. Release that energy within you and open your third eye. Yes, open your third eye and receive the awakening. Kundalini awakening. What is the moral of the story that I want you to get from this? I want all of you to be careful about what you get yourselves into. Yoga is one of many ways whereby an individual can be initiated into occult society and Eastern mysticism. There is nothing wrong with exercising and performing different styles of flexibility. There is nothing wrong with that. You just have to be cautious when they get you into that state of meditation. That is where you will find yourself in a whole different reality. Welcome to the New Age doctrines of devils. So, now that you know the truth, what then is going to be your next move? When I first learned the truth about many things, it dawned on me and I could not keep it to myself. When you learn an interesting and amazing fact, when it burns inside of you, you cannot keep it to yourself. You want to share it with people. That's why I keep saying, please don't keep this information to yourself. Share this information with as many people as you can, because you don't know, you never know who you're reaching. I personally I never know who I'm reaching. There were many times I nearly walked out from YouTube. Many times I nearly walked out. And in those times when I nearly walked out, I've had people who called me on my phone. They called me from the States. It's as if God was the one who told them, hey, call this man right now. Call him. And then they call me and they tell me, brother, I just want to say thank you for the sources of information that you're putting out there. Because I became a Christian. I used to be an atheist. I used to be a non-believer. Now I believe in the message. When I heard that testimony, it dawned on me. It dawned on me, and I truly knew. I knew that I never know who I'm reaching out there. So you never know who you're reaching out there. When you take the information, all you have to do is just click share. When you hit share, you never know who you're reaching. You never know. So that's why I keep telling you, I keep asking all of you to do the same. Share that which you know. In fact, re-upload these videos onto your own channels. Re-upload these videos. I'm giving you permission to do that, because there's a lot more people out there who are in need of hearing these things. Especially the videos about drugs, which I'm going to continue doing, and all of those things. I am not leaving all of those series behind. I have not forsaken them. I'm in the making of all of those. It's just that I have so many things that's going on all at once in my life right now. But I'm asking for you to not keep any of these things to yourself, because you do not know who you may reach. I never knew who I was reaching out there, but there's many people who called me. They told me how they used to be basically atheists, hardcore atheists, and then they came across my channel and the information that I was talking about drugs, and I talked about certain things in biblical prophecy, and they said it makes sense. I was surprised. And this is something that I'm not going to hide from you. This is something that helped me came back onto my 2 feet, because I nearly walked away. So I just want to say, don't keep these things to yourselves. For those of you who have been supporting me from the very beginning, I want to say thank you. Thank you. This fight is not just me alone. All of us are in this together. So, thank you once again for tuning in and for watching the Controversy 7. Until next time, stay tuned. And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe now, because there's a lot more interesting stuff that's going to come across your way. And keep an eye out in this channel in the next couple of weeks. A good, interesting video is coming your way. Thank you once again.